Hello everyone. My name is Ruturaj Shinde, and I am founder of Impulsetronics. This is basically we work in the field of 3D printing and automation services, and we also work in the domain of AI and machine learning, all emerging technologies. So today I'll be telling you about my journey, how I came into an entrepreneurship journey, how I started from a regular student and then just started working on with some startups in Pune and a nearby region. So basically my inclination was towards electronics from school itself. Like I used to keep on doing some minor projects like whatever ready-made kits are available, or just doing some stuff related to science and electronic physics basically. So after that my decision was fixed that I'll be doing my graduation, something, not graduation but something related to electronics. So then as the goal was fixed, so like life is everything about setting your goals. So my goal was fixed that I have to work in the field of electronics. So then I decided that rather than going into taking 11th and 12th, I'll be doing diploma, because it was fixed that my decision was final to get into electronics. So I took admission after 10th in diploma in ENTC itself. So again, as I was into the field of my own interest, like it was not forced on me that I have to get into that field or something. So like genuinely I was working in this field. So that helps a lot. Like when you are forced to do something, that does not help, but when you are doing it willingly, so that will give you effective outcomes. Okay, so like setting your goal and working towards it willingly will give you some great outcomes. So when I started working in that field of electronics, so like that was very fascinating. Whatever stuff goes on, how the stuff works into the core level or something, that was fascinating for me. So like to explore it more, I started working on like from a technical point of view. So I started developing projects. So initially whatever projects we have for final year, or like mini projects and all engineering students have. So I started developing those mini projects. So the real journey started when I was in the last sem of my diploma, final semester of my diploma. So the another thing that I was sure that I don't want a job, कुछ भी हो, एक business ही करना है, like whatever it may be, a small scale, a large scale, anything. Domain was not completely fixed, but doing business was my first and the last aim. So initially I started working on some projects. So whatever projects we have for final year, mini projects, maybe BE students have, diploma students have, or ME students have. So once I was like we had vacations of our final year diploma. So I started developing projects, like whoever students came to me. So I used to develop projects and sell those projects to them. This was the first thing. You will see a lot of project developers in the market, but the thing to get into that was not to get some money or stuff, but to clear our basics. Like whatever work happens at the ground level in an electronics, all those basics were cleared when I started developing some projects. So the main base or main foundation of the technical part of me was to develop those projects, because you really need to go into deep depth of whatever when you develop something. So you need to know each and every bit of it. Again, so I was like, we are not taught a lot of stuff about technical things in our college days. Like there is a lot of theory knowledge shared, but we are unaware about the practical or real life scenarios that happen in industry. So again, the same thing helped in getting getting the knowledge or getting known about, introduce myself about the actual practical stuff that works on. Like I started working on microcontroller, started working on PLC. So all these things, like theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge, there's a lot of difference. Like you learn theoretical, but that's all basic, and whatever actually you have to implement is a lot different. So obviously theoretical knowledge is required, but when until and unless you apply it practically, you won't be clear about the concepts or whatever stuff is going on. Okay, so that was the base initial starting. After that I started coaching. So ek bar, like microcontroller was one of my favorite subject. So once I started developing projects, again controllers are used over there, controllers are used, processors are used. So I started teaching microcontroller to again diploma students and degree students. Like even when I was in third year vacations, I used to teach the microcontroller to BE students, because B students were again raw. They had theoretical knowledge, but I was working on some practical stuff. So I knew each and every bit of that microcontroller. So I started coaching microcontroller to them. And the best thing is that when you teach someone, that concepts are more clarified for yourself. So when you teach one thing to someone, you need to read three things at the back. Okay, so when you tell someone, so more knowledge is gained by you and then the next person. So it is not that if you stay selfish, like if you know something, you keep it to yourself, you won't grow. If you keep on sharing that knowledge, so the another person will come one step forward, but you will be 3 steps more forward. Okay, so that will help the next person as well as to you. So like again, it is an act of selfishness, but it is fruitful for both of y'all. It is a mutually beneficial thing. So again, I started coaching related stuff, and then after that coaching, the first venture that we started, like the first foundation of Impulsetronics, was actually the educational field. So we used to visit to different colleges. Even we started from 5th standard students. So we used to visit different schools, and we used to teach those students about electronics and physics. So like making some, again, everything was practical oriented. So when we used to like there are some Newton laws or something, or how a generator works, or how a motor works. So all these definitions we study in our engineering, right? But we taught these concepts to 5th standard students, 5th to 10th standard students, with the help of practical models. We used to distribute some practical stuff, and then the students used to make generators and motors in their classrooms. The 5th standard to 10th standard school kids used to develop a generator, and like they were very flexible. Whenever if you ask them how a generator, what the principle of generator is, they like without mugging it up, they will literally tell you the actual definition or actual working principle of those stuff. Newton's laws, like all the laws of Newton's, we had a practical model of each one of them, and we would used to distribute the hardware material to them. They used to make those practical models and learn concepts through it. So same thing even we implemented in ourselves for learning bigger amount of stuff. Like when we came into engineering, when we needed to learn some particular concept, instead of mugging it up, we started working directly on some practical stuff or working on some projects, so that the concepts are more visualized and conceptually we understand it much better. So after that, we kept on doing this stuff. We had around 20 schools in Pune whom we have a contract with, and we regularly visit on monthly basis to teach those students, and that benefited students as well as us, because we got to know, like we get to interact with young minds. So what a young mind thinks, because they are the future of our nation, right? So what kind of thinking they have, and what kind of thinking needs to be implemented, and same how we can utilize, we can convert it into a entrepreneurship or a startup kind of thing. So those ideas, so when you interact with young minds, that is the benefit that you get. You keep on getting some or the other new stuff. So that's the reason that I keep on interacting with someone or the other. So we get ideas, they get something from me, the same thing that I told, sharing. So like today the world is moving towards open source technology. So again, open source is that you don't keep restrictions to something you invent or something, some knowledge that you have. You keep it open source. So once it is open source, you give it to everyone uses it, plus they keep on adding value to it. So when you keep yourself open to everyone, you give them, but they keep on adding value to yourself. So eventually they also develop, and you too develop among yourself. So that is what we follow, the open source technology or open source world. That helps a lot. So after that, again, we had this thing that we have to do something innovative, or eventually we have to end up doing a business. So that was fixed in my mind. So again, like we had a good circle around us. So we started thinking on a bit what are the emerging technologies. So like many of us keep on thinking that we should get into business. Like it is very fascinating to have something of our own. So even though it is fascinating, it is not that simple. Like your decision should be right, your timing that you take decision should be right. So only when you take decisions at the right time and at the right moment, that will give you fruitful outputs. So like, so we just sat along and like, what should be done? So we just pointed out some domains that we can work on, or that entire world is working on. So there are a lot of wide variety available out in the market. But to step in, like, we are no one at this moment. So to step in, if we step in something that the entire world is competing with, so eventually we won't be able to catch up the pace that they are already, because they are way ahead of us. So we found out some such domains that, like, which we call as emerging technologies. So they are just they have been just introduced in the market, and not much of them are available, or much of them are aware about it. So similarly, some emerging technologies to be noted are 3D printing technology that we did on first priority. Then then AI on edge. Not just AI, world is way ahead in the field of AI, but we work on AI on edge. Then we work on IoT, again on edge. So this AI and IoT on edge is something that world is not totally aware about. So this is where, like, you should also get into, like, this AI on edge is such a ladder that the ladder is just about to construct. So if you step on that ladder, as these technologies grow, eventually if you step on this ladder, even you will grow along with those technologies. Only if you are working in the right direction and took decisions on the right time. So like, we jumped into 3D printing. So again, 3D printing, just we saw a video, and like, again, it was fascinating for us, and something which India did not have till then. So like, we thought that we need to purchase a 3D printer. Like, China was already making hobby 3D printers, a lot of them. So we thought of getting some 3D printers. So then again, while doing some research on those 3D printers, we visited one industry who had a 3D printer. So once we saw it, so like, the technical part of us thought that it won't seem that difficult to, if we get into developing this printer by ourselves. Like, instead of purchasing a 3D printer, we can give it a try. Like this machine was looking quite simple. It was just a box which had 3 axes, moving up, down, and horizontally. So we thought we can give it a try. If we fail, then no problem, we'll purchase something, then again we'll strip it down, and then again we'll construct it. So this was what we planned. So like, what we did is, we did not thought about the risks that will come. Like, if we thought that this is okay, this can be done, so without thinking of the, like, failure, we just jumped into it and started working on it. So like, we started working on the 3D printing technology. So we did a bit of research, and then we like, within a month or two, we started developing our own 3D printer. And again, that was a very fruitful outcome that we had, that in the first attempt itself, we had a successful 3D printing machine developed by us. So then, once the machine was developed, so like, if a successful outcome is there, it is very encouraging for us. So again, once the 3D printing machine was done, then we thought about giving it some aesthetic looks and stuff, and then we again jumped without thinking about if there is someone in the market, or what all conditions we need to. We just stood out, and then we kept on asking that if someone needs a 3D printing machine, because again, India was not much aware about that technology. There were only China and some part of US who was working in 3D printing, that too in the research sector, R&D sector. Like, no one in India was like domestic printers or something. Even today we don't have some domestic printers available. So then we thought that rather than getting into industry, you need to study what market needs, right? So we got into domestic 3D printing, and now we are selling domestic customized 3D printers to clients. So like, colleges, college students, or maybe industries who required some customized 3D printers. So we are working on those 3D printing technologies, and we provide customized 3D printers. Again, not restricting ourselves, like, we had developed 3D printers, so not restricting ourselves to till that extent. Now we started working on resin printers, which will be useful for dentist applications. So like, artificial gums or artificial tooths, So we started working on that field, and we have successfully developed our first model for which will be used by some dentists in the field of dentists. Again, food 3D printing came. So like we thought about food 3D printing. Why not print food on the 3D printer? So again, that was not a lot of, but it was very again a fascinating stuff. Like whatever seems fascinating in this emerging world of technologies, we are very eager to grab those things. So we thought about why not implement a food 3D printer along with this. So again, we started working on some how we can develop a food 3D printer, and then we worked on it, and then now we have chocolate 3D printer machine that can print chocolate stuff for you all. So you give something input, so you can have chocolate printed stuff from chocolate. Like if I want to have some ice cream, I can make a coffee mug made up of chocolate, and then once that mug is ready, I'll put 2 scoops of ice cream in it. I'll have the ice cream, and after that I can have that cup too, the chocolate cup made up of chocolate too. So like we have jumped into 3D food 3D printing too. So soon, like in the upcoming time, we will be commercializing our food 3D printers too, and you will see those in some of the cafes in Pune. So after 3D printing, what we heard about is like China was working a lot on AI on edge stuff. Like big companies like Nvidia, Qualcomm, Intel, all those are working on AI on edge stuff. So we thought of working like what AI is and what AI on edge is. So the entire world was aware about AI that works on cloud, but many of them were unaware about AI on edge. So AI on edge is providing AI solutions on an embedded chip. So we started working on embedded Linux then, just to explore what this stuff really is. And when we started working on it, like there are literally only 2,000 professionals in entire world who work on AI stuff, like embedded Linux stuff, AI on embedded Linux. You will find only 2,000 professionals in entire world. You can Google it. Like you can Google it. What is the salary of an AI professional? You will be amazed by that. So we thought of, rather than learning just AI, why not work on that AI on edge stuff? Like world has moved far ahead in working on AI on cloud stuff. So we cannot start working on like developing some algorithms or something. So that was not our part of cake. Like to develop some algorithm, and then that algorithm will be published somewhere, and then we'll get outcomes from that. Rather than we started working on porting those algorithms to AI on edge. So like TensorFlow works on cloud, so we ported it to hardware device. So like some AI chips that were manufactured by some branded industries from China. So there are chips they have developed. So we have ported those algorithms or those models for those hardware chips. So to get to do this stuff, you need to know really basics of the core electronics. And this basics will be only cleared when you keep on doing some practical stuff. Like you keep on working in that domain, so you will be aware about it.